Welcome back to Rubbing Minds. You'll agree with me that sports, football in particular, has a way of bringing us all together as a nation. Doesn't matter who you support, what tribe you are, it doesn't really matter. When the Super Eagles saw, we all saw together as a nation. And third place, better than nothing. I know we all hoped that they would bring back the gold, but third place it is. To discuss our AFCON journey and the hopes for the Super Eagles now that they've come third and they've missed out on the World Cup, I have with me a self-confessed Barca fan. He's a football analyst, an influencer. He talks sports, talks football. He is OB Kevin Undukabo. You know him as Ultimate Combo. Welcome to Rubbing Minds.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here.
Yes. Yeah, Man City, right? I forgot to put that part there. How market?
Manchester City, that's my club in the Premier League. That's the club I support because of Pep Guardiola.
Okay.
I'm a Barcelona fan.
But how market now? You know, Manchester was red, so it was...
Funny enough, I saw it coming.
You saw it coming.
And I knew that, you know, this season Manchester City was not going to win Premier League. I've been backing Arsenal to win Premier League.
Yes, Arsenal. I know my producer is watching. He's not Manchester United.
Okay, he's an Arsenal.
Yes, he is. But today is all about the Super Eagles and AFCON. Going into this competition, did you think the Super Eagles will soar? And in your opinion, did they soar?
Sincerely, you know, based on how we played during the World Cup qualifiers and how we missed out during the World Cup, I expected less, quote unquote. But, you know, going into this competition and how we started the competition in the group stage, winning all 3 games, you know, scoring so many goals and, you know, performing the way we performed in the group stage. And I started to see belief and I started to feel like, yes, we can actually do it, you know, this year. But unfortunately, you know, we weren't able to win the gold medal, but we came back with the bronze medal, which is okay.
Are you happy with that?
Based on how we performed during the tournament, I think we did well. I think if we're going to judge the best team in this tournament, I think it was Nigeria. We were completely unbeaten. We didn't lose any matches, you know, from group stage till, you know, the third place match in regulation time. I think the only match we lost was against Morocco, and it was in penalties. And there's no shame losing, you know, in penalties to a Moroccan team that's #1 in Africa. We scored 15 goals. We conceded only 4. We were breathtaking. We were incredible. So I feel, yes, this tournament, we actually showed that we are the Super Eagles.
The Super Eagles. You know, when I think about the Super Eagles, I think about my childhood where Nigeria was a force in football. I'm an 80s baby, but you know, 1994, the Olympic gold, the likes of Kano, Wankwo. Do you ever see the Super Eagles coming back to being not just the giant of Africa in name, but the giant of Africa in football?
Yes, I sincerely think it's possible with this crop of players, but the only problem is we are not giving these players what they need in terms of infrastructure. You know, so see what happened when we were in Morocco. We had players complaining about not getting bonuses, things like that. These are distractions that shouldn't be, you know, with a national team like Nigeria, with the kind of players we have. When you look at our crop of players right now, I call this the golden generation of, you know, Nigerian football. Osimhen, one of the best strikers in the world, not just in Africa. We have Lukman there. We have Iwobi, who has shown us that he's a superstar, you know, in this AFCON. We have one of the best defenders in the world right now, Kevin Bassey. So when you look at this team, you can clearly see that, yes, we have the potential to become the giants, you know, in terms of football, not just in Africa, but in the world. But, you know, I don't think that these boys are really getting the support that they need, you know, to, you know, follow through.
And what would that support look like? What do you think this government should have done before going into AFCON? Because, I mean, when the boys start performing well, it's very easy for people to start making all these promises. You win the gold, we give you this, we give you that. But what needs to be put in place before they even go on the pitch?
Yeah, so first things first, the structure from the NFF needs to be perfect. There should be a plan from grassroots to senior level. There should be a plan, a well-structured plan that, okay, this is what's going to happen. These are the coaches we're looking at getting, not, just random selection of different coaches. Look at what happened, The reason why we are missing out in going to the World Cup, which is a very, very big embarrassment, judging by how we played in the AFCON, is because of poor planning from the NFF. Look at how we changed managers. We used about 3 different managers during the World Cup qualifiers, which is an embarrassment, right? So I feel like from the NFF, there has to be proper planning. And this whole distraction of when we go into competitions, we're hearing stuff like, oh, the players are not being paid their bonuses. These are distractions. I feel like these distractions might have affected the players mentally going into the Morocco match, right? And, when players are not 100%, when their mind is not 100% focused on football, things like this can happen and we can get knocked out. So I think the structure has to be set direct from the government, then the NFF, then, I think the players are good enough, to take us wherever we want them to take us to.
It's sounding almost like a broken record when we hear these issues around the match bonus. This is not the first time, the second or the third time. You even have instances in the past where Mikel Obiu has had to put his hand in his pocket to just, ensure the boys are taken care of. And you've had other people saying they're going to do things for the Super Eagles. Why does this continue to persist? Why haven't we learned from our mistakes? And why are we leaving major opportunities, just leaving them on the table, like the World Cup? We know what that does for a nation in terms of, sponsorship, in terms of the reputation, and even for us as a people, bringing us together.
One word, greed. I feel like it's just greed. We put people who are not good enough in positions they shouldn't be in, right? There's no proper interview. There's no proper, selection method whereby we say, okay, this person is good enough to hold this position. Let's give him this position because he qualifies to be there. We are giving positions because, this my brother or my sister, or, just for different reasons that does not have to do with competence, that does not have to do with the know-how. So it's just greed. I feel like it's just greed. And if we can fight this greed and remove this greed from our nation entirely, I think a lot of things will be better. So I feel like, we can do better as a nation in terms of selecting the people who are leading this different position. When we get that right, I think every other thing works.
So one issue is corruption and greed, and
Yes.
the other issue is putting round pegs in round holes, the
Yes.
right people for the job. Now let's go to that defining match. That's the Nigeria versus Morocco. They're the host nation. Looking back, they say vision is 2020. If you were the coach, would you have done things differently? Where do you think the turning point could have been in the favor of the Super Eagles?
First of all, I want to really, really appreciate the manager, Eric Chell. I think he has done an exceptional job as a manager. Structurally, tactically, he has done very, very well. So I want to, just thank him because I see the picture of what he has done with this national team. In such a short period of time, we've been almost flawless. And, going into a match against the home nation in Morocco, you know how it will be in the stadiums. I was there in the opening match where Morocco was playing in the stadium, and I saw how the Moroccans were, shouting and chanting for their players. And to see that we didn't get beaten. We weren't beaten. We played well. And yes, the Moroccan team was slightly better than us, plus, what the referee did in that match, but I don't want to talk about that. Going into the penalty shootout and we lost in penalties, I think the coach did very, very well. I think what the Moroccan team did was nullifying our midfield. They were able to nullify our midfield completely, and they were able to, remove our best players in the midfield in terms of Iwobi. His influence was, nullified. And I think that was the place where Morocco was able to, get us. That was where they were able to hold us, because the moment they stopped Iwobi from getting those passes into the box, our strikers were not able to produce. And you saw we got just one shot on target in that entire match, and that was an area where we failed. I think that was the only match where our midfield was nullified. And if you look at the entire tournament from the group stage, we're dominant. We're dominating every single match up until that match. So I feel the Moroccans, they planned very well, and their tactics worked in terms of nullifying our best midfielder, Iwobi.
Let's talk about the penalty shootout. Nigerians are a very Nigerians are very special people.
Yeah.
1 minute, they crucify a player for missing a penalty kick, and the next minute they're forgiving him because of an improved performance in a third-place match. I mean, I'm talking about Chukwueze. What do you make of first the selection of players to take the penalty and the man in contention, Chukwueze?
Penalty is 50-50. I'm a football fan, and I've been watching football for years, and I've seen great players like Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, name them. I've seen them miss penalties in crucial moments. So penalty is 50-50. There's a lot of tension that goes into playing penalties. I don't think it is okay for Nigerians to pick out one person and say, let us put all the blame on this person. It's not fair. It's not fair. And I think,
I mean, we even saw like the ethnic sentiment coming.
Yeah.
Like Chukwueze.
I feel like that one is a joke. I don't want to take it serious. I don't want to think that any sane, proper thinking Nigerian will be putting ethnicity into football, because football is a very, very universal game whereby there's no language involved in football. Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about where you're from, as long as you know how to play football.
I mean, there's some jokes that are just too heavy, because this is a crucial moment. Yeah. This is the opportunity we have as a nation to come together. So when you see, this is not politics, this is football. So when you see those ethnic sentiments coming in, I don't think we can call it a joke.
I tie those things to illiteracy. And this is the problem we're talking about. I don't think that anybody who is has, an exposure in terms of education will think like that. I tie those, when I see comments like that, people tying football to ethnicity and things I just tie it to illiteracy. And this is one of the problems we have in this country. Everything has to be ethnic, religious, and political, and that is the reason why we are where we are as a country. And part of it is because of the level of illiteracy we have in this country. I think the government needs to put more attention into educating people, because I feel like if Nigerians were very educated, some of the problems we are facing right now won't be facing it. We're facing these problems because a lot of people, a large majority of people in Nigeria, are not educated. And you see comments like, "Oh, Chukwueze is Igbo. Igbo people are the reason why we lost in the AFCON." Doesn't even make sense.
I mean, the same Nigerians came back to praise Chukwueze in the third-place match, and all sins are forgiven. Now, beyond AFCON, now, where do you see the Super Eagles and our Nigerian players? They've distinguished themselves on the pitch. Do you see certain transfers happening, players getting signed?
I'm looking at Calvin Bassey. I'm looking at Iwobi. These two players, for me, were exceptional in this, AFCON. They raised their game to a different level. So I think, Calvin Bassey, Iwobi, I'm hoping that come the next transfer window, maybe not January, the next transfer window, I'm hoping that these guys will be moving from Fulham to bigger clubs, because right now, if you ask me, top 5 defenders in the world right now, I will mention Calvin Bassey. Iwobi has shown his class in the midfield. He has shown what he can do as a midfielder. So in terms of these two players, I think, transfers, I think they're going to move to bigger clubs.
And Nigerians love football. We follow the Premier League, probably more than we follow the Nigerian Premier League. Yeah. We follow, the Bundesliga, we follow Serie A, we follow the Spanish League. So what are your predictions across? I mean, you already said Arsenal is winning. So, Otumba, Arsenal is winning. I don't know what is happening with Man U and Rashford and the rest, but...
Okay, so my predictions for all the different leagues, if I'm going to predict, number one, the Premier League, Arsenal is going to win that one for sure. I don't think anybody's going to stop them. La Liga, 100% Barcelona is going to win. That's my club. We're on top right now, and I 100% believe that we're going to win.
Champions League.
In the Champions League, that one is very, very difficult, but I still think Barcelona has a very, very strong chance. Arsenal also has a very, very strong chance of winning, the Champions League. Paris Saint-Germain, the defending champions, they have a strong chance of winning the Champions League. In the Nigerian Premier League, you made mention of it. I think I need to talk about it. I feel like there's a lot that needs to happen for the Nigerian Premier League to gain recognition. And I think there's not enough investment in trying to push the Nigerian Premier League out there. People pay more attention to the Premier League, which is not proper. I see what is happening in the South African league, and I see how South Africans are so interested in their league.
So we can replicate the same thing. Sadly, we're out of time, but I have to ask this final question. Okay. TikTok is asking, what do you have against Ronaldo?
Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the greatest goal scorers in football, but I don't think he's the greatest footballer of all time. I do not think.
There you have it. So, not the greatest. Great, but not exactly the greatest.
But Lionel Messi is the greatest.
Thank you, Obi, Kelvin,
so
Uduka, Ultimate Combo. And we hope that, one time we'll bring you back here and we're talking the Nigerian Premier League.